YouTube. As we talked back out here in the wood shop. Wood shop might look a little different because we put some work in here today. But we'll go over that on our channel. House we built. Tonight I got a few topics, really quick video. Sunday night. Not a lot of people do videos on Sunday night, but I want to try to put content out every day if we can. And you know, there's always something in the news cycle that we can go over and talk about. So, here we go. Let's dive right in. Another mass shooting over the weekend, Saturday night, in another lawless city. And this city is near and dear to me because we're from that area. But Philadelphia, I think they said 3 people killed and 11 injured. So that's 14 people shot. And the news is reporting it like it's a mass shooting. And it is a mass casualty event. And I mean, I get the idea that it was a mass shooting. I think it was no handguns. That's an important, it's an important bit of information. It wasn't the, the AR, if you will. Justin Trudeau will probably feel, he'll probably feel justified in his push to ban handguns in Canada after this shooting. This shooting, though, was preceded about 40 minutes earlier by a fist fight, not far from the scene of the shooting. And they had that on camera. And the police engaged the shooters, and the shooters were just, it seemed like they were just, I don't want to say they were indiscriminately shooting into the crowd. Evidently, whoever they were shooting was in the crowd, and they shot up the crowd trying to get, this individual or these individuals. But the other thing you could probably rest assured in knowing is, because this always comes up, I'm pretty sure that the guns that were used weren't legally purchased either. They were probably straw purchases at best, if not just illegal guns to begin with, maybe even ghost guns. And I don't actually talk about ghost guns much, because I'm not like, I don't do a lot with it. I haven't spent a whole lot of time talking about the Second Amendment with you and our right to bear arms. But I mean, I do believe that, like they are dangerous weapons for sure, all of them. There's no such thing as a undangerous gun. And I think the idea of them being serial numbered and registered and traceable is an important fact if you're going to buy something. You can't buy anything else in this world that you could hurt somebody or kill somebody with, except for like knives, I guess. But you buy a car, it's got to be registered. A trailer, registered. Anything with a house, whatever. Like it's got to be able to be traced and tracked and whatnot. And I don't really feel like that's a real violation of. I mean, I don't really care because I'm not breaking any laws. I don't have a mental health problem, and I'm not shooting any, places up. And you can enact all the background checks and things that you want. And if I want to buy a gun, I'll still be able to buy a gun, because I do it the right way. But ghost guns, an untraceable gun that somebody could literally print on a 3D printer, that's a little suspect if you ask me. I don't think that such things should be accessible, I don't think that, I know when they shut down that one company like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, everybody was up in arms, but I can see it, I can understand it, and I can appreciate it. You're not going to believe this one. Another poultry / egg manufacturing facility, like raw eggs, chickens, went up in flames, which is really bizarre because they're like steel buildings. But I guess the grass, the hay or whatever that they stand on is what burns. I don't really know. But a poultry and egg farm building, one of the largest in the nation, went up in flames. what a crazy coincidence that is. You know, eggs, I don't say eggs have largely been unaffected by the inflation. They've been affected, but it's been like a manageable price. But add another one to the list, you know, of things that are going to be raising in price, because that's probably like 25% of the country's egg production comes from this particular farm, plant, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, look for your eggs to go from, what are they now, like $4 a dozen, or $3 a dozen maybe? They'll probably double in price to like $6 a dozen. And then anything made with eggs, obviously, is going to raise in price. Breakfast in restaurants is going to go up in price because of the meats and because of the wheat and the bread and the wheat flour they would use to make pancakes and waffles and vice versa. And now the eggs, the staple of the whole thing, is going to go up in price. And nobody, you know, it seems like a really gray area of why these plants just go up. There was a couple poultry farms that produced actual chicken meat. Beef farms went up in flames. Dairy farms are going up in flames. Like, it's kind of crazy, you know. But I read something yesterday, kind of disturbing. I think there's 6. I don't think it's here. It might be like in Australia, because Australia is very authoritarian, and they seem to be one of the countries willing to like test things on their people, like the lockdowns and what went on during COVID. They were pretty brutal. So now there's I think it's in Australia, but I could be mistaken. There's like 6 schools that are testing what they're calling alternative proteins, which is basically bugs. They're grinding up bugs, and you know what? It's not, well, it could be Australia, but it's wherever they call meat mince. So it's either like a European nation, but Australia could call it mince. I'm not really sure. I just know it's not an American term. Makes me think of either like England or Scotland or I don't know, Norway, Finland, you know, any of these countries trying to sign up for NATO. But yeah, they're testing it in like 6 schools right now. They're going to be mixing ground bugs as an alternative protein with other mincemeat, and I guess forming hamburgers and stuff out of them. And they're going to test it on the kids. And I'm not really sure if they're telling the kids or not, but it's pretty wild to think that that's the big push. And I can imagine that, right? Like, I can just see it right now. I can see 7 years from now, meat's unable for the middle class for anybody really to buy. And we're all eating bugs to stay alive. And yet you'll probably have these Project Veritas will be doing videos of like parties, you know, like these you know, those blood cult parties that kind of were all conspiracy theories they talked about during the Obama years with the Clintons and whatnot, and that woman, whatever her name is, when they were doing the body fluid things. You know, whatever that whole scene was, which probably still exists. It's just, it doesn't get talked about now because there's a Democrat in office. You know, but they'll probably have like parties where like all those same shenanigans are going on, and they'll all be eating like T-bone steaks for dinner and like baked potatoes and stuff. Why us ordinary people are eating bugs. So with that said, you know, as an ordinary person, I want to talk about some other extraordinary people. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, and all of the attendees at Davos, and all the attendees at the Bilderberg seminars or whatever they are. That's what we should be standing up against, in my opinion. These globalist elites, and the fact that they, for one, even think, I don't give a shit whether in their minds they've convinced themselves that what they're doing is in our best interest. I don't care what they think, right? I live here, I live in New Jersey, I live in America. I want to live locally. I want what we do here to be local, to be affected. I work locally, I live locally, I want to purchase locally, I want to visit, like farms and like small businesses around here. I don't want to support this shit at Walmart and Target anymore, I don't really care about whether or not China stays in business producing 80% of the world's goods anymore. Why can't we just stand up to these globalists and just start and be unselfish and just start living locally, and doing things at the local level. All their power comes from us being consumers. If we weren't such shitty consumers, none of this stuff could last, could exist. None of these people would be in power. You wouldn't have like Davos where you have this line of 60 private jets that everybody took their own private jet to be included in this meeting, where they sit down and they talk about climate change and global warming and how we are the problem. They all drove their own private jets, I remember when Biden went to France earlier this year to re-sign us up for the climate accord, or whatever that was, right? And it was during the COVID lockdowns. So what do you got to do if you're the president and you go visit another country during the lockdowns? Of course, your entire entourage of 90 people, they all need their own separate cars. So there you had the president and his entire Secret Service and chef and cook and, speechwriters and Psaki and, whoever else, all in this like parade of cars driving around town. Imagine that. That's like 90 gas guzzling engines running for one man to go from point A to point B. And they have the audacity to stand there and talk to us about global warming. They have the audacity to have meetings and test runs on us eating bugs because cow farts are bad for the environment, why they're flying private jets and having an 85 car entourage to drive around one country, It's such hypocrisy. It's such hypocrisy, and we're insane. We're insane because we accept it, because they've done this over and over again, and we all just sit back and run with it, So yeah, bottom line is, we all should be trying to live more on a local level. We all should be purchasing things more locally from small businesses, and by doing that, we strip the power from these elites, from this 0.01% people, with almost all the wealth in the world, I talked about that the other night, the debt block, and the $1 million that my family owes as a result of their money printing. And where is that money? It's a sickening thing. It's amazing to think that we all owe $150,000 or own $150,000 of the national debt, and it's only going to get worse. As I said yesterday, they're going to keep looking for crises to enact more emergency powers and therefore print more money and therefore create new agencies and skim off the top and give their friends and their buddies and their family members no bid contracts to do bullshit. Because, that's where we live. And the longer we support the global agenda and we don't just stand up for it. But, what they do is We can't be strong as a people and stand up because they divide us so easily with everything else, you know? They divide us with, you know, we're divided on everything. We're divided by politics. We're divided between, we're divided by like what a man and a woman is these days. We're divided by abortion. We're divided by race. We're divided by age. We're divided by the many, many genders that people want you to believe exist. We're fractured in so many different ways that it's very difficult to find two people and put them in the same room and not find a thing between them that they're both that they eventually will hate each other over because of their ideology differences. You know, it's like whatever it is, you just take two random people off the street and just start asking questions on all these other things, asking questions about their religion, about their you know, whether they're pro-choice or pro-life, whether they're Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or whatever. Yeah, you know. But that is, in my opinion, the way that we the people get the power back. We get the power back by not buying into this globalist agenda, and that means not purchasing things globally. You know, we once had the biggest industrial infrastructure in all the world, and it would be a 10-year plan, 10-year turnaround, and we could have that back. We just have to want it, and we have to enact the right people in office that are acting on behalf of our best interests and not their own interests, and not lining their own pockets, you know? And the number one way that that's gonna happen is if we were to enact term limits for all these people that are in office, you know? No more lifetime politicians. You know, president can only serve 8 years, then that should be true of every other politician. That's all I got for you tonight, YouTube. Thanks for listening to my rant.